Hello everybody, welcome back to It's Current Year for another quick battle ladder replay today on the Herod Ridge map. This is going to be a double cast actually, a Dark Elf double cast where I am focusing on a very elite builds. This first one is up against the Greenskins of Glorious Feeder. The builds will be slightly different, but we'll go through my armies. We'll go through them as we come. So my opponent's army here, the Wolf Rider Archers, as well as the Death Creepers here in a little vanguard. Some Spider Riders here on each flank, and then we have a fairly spread out front line. So Orc Boys here in the front rows, some big uns coming up behind them, as well as the Warlords Boys. We've got some Orc Arrow Boys in the back here, as well as some Goblin Archers just in the rear, as well as some nasty Skulkers hidden in here too. So they'll be stalking with their little knives out there. We've got some Orc Boy Biggins, or Orc Boar Boys rather, just the regular variant, so more sort of all-rounders I guess. A bit of armor piercing and just generally better stats than the anti-large Biggin variant. We've got the River Troll Hag here, who has taken Soul Blight as well as Spirit Leech, and also has a couple of good debuffs as well. And we've got Grimgore, which is cool to see. Grimgore obviously got a bit of an update and made a little bit better. He still gets absolutely outclassed by just about all the other Greenskin legendary lords, but he's taken the Blood Forged armor as well as the Your Next debuff, so he hasn't taken Git Snick, so he's probably relatively cheap, not probably costing my opponent too much there on the spend. For my own army, like I said, very elite. So I've got some triple gold chevron bleak swords here. I've got 2 units of black guard, so that'll be good. They're obviously immune to psychology, which means spiders, giants, things like that can't tear out them. We've got some Hageneth Executioners as well as the Hellebroni in the back. We have a Bloodrack Shrine as well as a Sorceress of Shadow. So the Bloodrack Shrine offers obviously a number of sort of utilities. It shoots while it's in combat and has some reasonably good melee missile strength on its shooting attack. It also shoots while it's in combat too, which is a nice sort of double ability. And it has the plus and minus 4/7 on leadership and melee defense and attack for opposition in the nearby vicinity. I've got a black dragon, a regular black dragon up in the air, as well as a regular dreadlord on another black dragon over here. So she's relatively cheap. She's got the shield of Grond, just to basically debuff base weapon damage in an area of effect, as well as the own buff on air forces. So there's some good debuff and combat buffs here in this force, and obviously I've got 6 breath weapons across my two dragons here. I've also taken a Shadow Sorcerer who has taken Okam's Mind Razor, because I figure I've got a lot of high damage causing units. So Okam's Mind Razor, I'm going to be in a tightly packed formation as well, so an overcast of that can potentially get my entire army. And I've also taken a Pendulum. So 2 sort of costly spells, which meant I have invested also in the Darkstar Cloak for some mana regen. So let's get the game underway. The Greenskins versus Dark Elf matchup is a pretty interesting one. I feel like obviously probably many people would consider Greenskins to be one of the stronger armies, if not the strongest army in the meta so far. But I feel like Dark Elves actually have some reasonably good players against them. So we're going to get a bit of screening fire here from the fast cav, but if anything else we can tear out them off. I also forgot to mention we do have a Goblin Big Boss here who does have they need stabbing, which is a nice little debuff. So they need stabbing. He's probably got Mither on that River Troll Hag as well, so can layer some debuffs on me as well. Plenty of buff and debuff play here from both armies. So as the armies sort of close in, I'm going to stay pretty tight. Pretty high and tight. I've got a lot of charge defense in this list. I've got plenty of anti-large. He's going to get a pretty good wrap on me, but I'm kind of okay with that. If I can turn to face, I can deal with it reasonably well. And I do go down here, seeing that there's nothing that can really pin me. I do go down here to try and get a snipe on this River Troll Hag. Probably decide I have to pull out here, and a nice Mither stopping the other black dragon from getting down, and I am going to be forced to pull my forces back. So as I said, turning to face, I'm okay taking the charge here, but we're probably going to get debraced by the initial charge of the Biggins. But we do have good leadership, good melee defense all around here. We've got our triple gold chevron bleak swords, who are obviously going to do a bit of work, but Grimgors come in, as well as a Smoke Bomb, a You're Next, and a Spirit Leech, and absolutely pounded my Dreadlord. So the Dreadlord's basically out of the game already. Probably going to get ferried off by the fast cap as well here. Although I am dropping down, we've got a natural break here on these big uns who have been absolutely shellacked by the Black Guard. But we've just got a massive tide of Greenskins pouring in now, hoping the Black Dragon can cause possibly some terror outs to just relieve sort of the tension on these units here. And we've got a nice pendulum going down here in and amongst this unit of big ends. And like I said, my Dreadlord's not coming back now, so that's a big early pickup for my opponent. A Soul Blight, obviously the downside to me bunching up here and making use of all my buffs and my debuffs is that the same goes for my opponent in terms of Soul Blight, which is a pretty handy debuff. So we see the weapon damage and the armor. You know, these Hellebronii are 0 armor at the moment. The Bloodforged armor going off there. We get a nice breath attack in, doing plenty of damage, but yeah, at the end of the day, these are just Orc boys. And this tightly packed formation is buying a lot of time for the arrows to just pour in. A couple of units of Dark Riders here may have been pretty handy, as my Dreadlord basically does go off the white line. Overcast Mind Razor going down now, so at the very least it's my turn to get back some good value on area of effect buffs. But the pouring in of fire from these Arrow boys here is probably it's starting to tell now. We've talked about on the channel before that Orc Arrow boys actually have decent armor piercing damage. They actually have, I think, 6 armor piercing damage on a unit of Orc Arrow boys. We'll check that just very quickly. At least they used to. I know they used to. 6 armor piercing damage. There you go. So for a unit that isn't a dedicated armor piercing unit, that's not insignificant. And unfortunately, that Spirit Leech will probably kill off this dragon at the very least. Yeah, there down she goes. So obviously everything that I've got left here is semi-elite. You know, Hellebronii are pretty decent. We've got some Black Guard here, 37 Black Guard here. We've got 51 Black Guard here. My Executioners, I've got tons of kills on all these units, but I'm just getting swamped. And with rear charges, my leadership has been taken out. I think the little Gobbo big boss there actually got in and sniped my caster, and in the end, just too much. Just too many bodies on the field at the end of the day. The really good early snipe. I was probably a bit careless with my Dreadlord, and probably underestimated Grimgor's ability to take on a large target like that. Some nice use of Mither and the Smoke Bomb from the Nasty Skulkers meant that I couldn't pull out with the Dreadlord, and I think I only used 1 breath attack on the Dreadlord. I think I might have got 2 out with this Black Dragon. So tons of kills on this guy, but I think a lot of them were on Orc boys. So you know, it's a style of play that I think the Dark Elves actually do really well. That close-knit formation, lots of buffs, lots of debuffs going down. Not sure if the Greenskins, with their ability to go so wide and get such good sort of, I guess, cost-effective picks on cheap units like Archers, cheap units like Wolf Riders and the like, I don't think it lends that itself to the Greenskin matchup as well. But it certainly can be an effective game. You know, a lot of the way to play against the Greenskins, a lot of these units are very, very beaten up. So a valiant defeat. We'll take the lessons learnt here, and I'll show you another replay now in which I go at a similarly elite Dark Elf build. So I'll catch you in the next battle in 1 sec. Alright, so this was the next battle within the... I guess I was playing a lot of the Dark Elves this night, and I was just focusing on these narrow elite builds built around sort of buffing and debuffing. So this time we're up against a Lizardmen force. Again, we'll go through his army first, and then we'll come back and we'll see which sort of little changes I've made. So 2 units of Chameleon Skinks, fantastic. Probably one of the best skirmish... Vanguard skirmish units in the game. We've got for the front line here, he's gone pretty cheap, so just skink cohorts, but he has pumped some silver chevrons into them, as well as the Legion of Shakwa with their missile debuff radius, with the Bastiladons nearby. So 2 Bastiladons with Solar Engine here, so he's got some good range play in this list. Also the Umbral Tide, really good obviously with their flaming attacks at sniping out Hydras and things like that, anything with sort of regen or weakness to fire. And they are a Stalk unit as well, so mitigates a lot of the damage that they can potentially take on the way in. 2 units of Cold One Spear Riders patrolling the rear here. For our heroes, we have a Saurus Scarvet. Looks like he has taken the Potion of Strength just to give him some beefy combat ability, potentially snipe out a large target. We've also got a Slan Mage Priest of High who has taken Tempest, as well as Apotheosis for some heals and Soul Quench. Soul Quench is actually a bit of an underrated magic missile. It gets forgotten about, I think, in the lore of high magic, because it is a pretty good lore, but Soul Quench not as bad as people think. So again, narrow formation. Obviously, being a monster faction with a lot of access to cheap terror, the Blackguard and Nagaron are great in this matchup because they don't suffer from terror outs. And then I've just buffed it out with some cheaper infantry, so a little bit wider. Bleak Sword's obviously good, potentially good for repelling Chameleon Skinks because they're cheap and they have a shield block chance. And again, the Hellebrono, one of my favorite units, if not just for the awesome unit model, but because I think they're actually a really effective unit for their cost up the front here. Also taken 2 Charybdis. Like I said, Lizardmen being a monster faction, they have access to a lot of good sort of cheap monsters, and with our 500 base weapon damage, 350 of which is armor piercing, and a bonus first large of 30. These are actually really decent monster hunters. Granted, they don't have they have some good missile resistance because of their scaly skin, but they don't have regen. So that's one area in which the Hydra does definitely outclass. But a Hydra in this matchup, obviously with the Bastillodons firing in, would probably cop a fair bit of damage on the way in. I also have 3 units of Dark Riders with shields. Again, great for running down Chameleon Skinks, great for just getting some rear charges. Gives you a lot of map control because of their pace. And we've also taken the Marathi little debuff bomb. She's can be tougher to snipe on foot just because she gets knocked around a bit. So she's taken obviously her debuffs with Enchanting Beauty and the Heartrender and Dark Sword, as well as Soul Blight, Power of Darkness, and Soul Stealer for her heals. And she's also taken the Wand of Karadin for some damage output. So we'll put this on a play. I'm going to be absolutely force pathing these Charybdis to try and take out these solar engines. Obviously a really good target. So a bit of ground to cover though, so I'm expecting obviously a fair few shots to be going into these Charybdis, but they have a reasonable health pool, 8,000 hit points, and some missile resistance as well, which I don't think magic damage mitigates missile resistance. So obviously just having a look in, obviously expected to see some Chameleon Skinks. I don't know if I've seen the Umbral Tide now because they've launched a shot at me, but getting some good scouting, so I sort of know what I'm up against, and I'm just deciding to pull back with my Dark Riders so that I don't take too much damage, so I can actually use them for a bit of map control and protect my own rears as well, because I do see some cavalry here. So like I said, the Umbral Tide getting some good damage, already about 1,000 damage going down on this Charybdis. The Bastillodons teeing off on this one, likewise about 800 damage going down here. The infantry fight's going to go well for me. Skink cohorts aren't going to really stand up to... I mean, even Bleak Swords will beat Skink cohorts, as we do have the natural banishment going down here for the passive ability from the Slan Mage Priest. And I'm starting to sort of get a bit wrapped around here. I'm trying to bait in the charges and pull them back. You see there, I maybe left that a little bit last minute because I am poisoned now, and unfortunately the Umbral Tide have broken up these guys because I'm busy doing a bit of micro here. But the frontline fighting is going to do well. I'm going to be force pathing through, as you see here with the Charybdis. The Slan Mage Priest has popped the Shield of the Old One, so some nice damage mitigation here, as we see a nice recharge here from these Dark Riders, trying to get some damage on the Umbral Tide. And I'm just pulling back. I'm just trying to pull these guys out of position because these are... now that I've shut down the Bastillodons, the biggest threat to my Charybdis are these Cold One Spear Riders. Soul Stealer going down here. Marathi and the Master are going to be pretty effective at killing the Slan Mage Priest, but they are tankier than people give them credit for, despite not being a sort of dedicated combat character. And there's really nothing here in this list that the Blackguard are going to be too scared of. They're going to cut through Skinks. They'll take a little bit of poking damage, but their armor's good, so Chameleon Skinks aren't really going to bother them. The Umbral Tide might be able to do a bit of damage, but I'm going up and around here. I see a rear charge coming in to the Hellebrono. Poison attacks on the Hellebrono mean these guys may not be able to actually pull themselves out, and my Charybdis, even though they're fighting they're a little bit isolated at the moment. They're doing they're just doing the work of the gods on these Bastillodons. They'll outclass the Bastillodons quite comfortably in combat. We do see a Soul Blight from Marathi going down here, so the stats on these skinks here are pretty pathetic. No armor to speak of. The Old Blood is having his weapon strength tanked quite remarkably, and the Spear Riders here have been absolutely butchered by these Black Guard. And I'm just sort of trying to dance around a little bit with my Dark Riders, get 2-for-1 engagements where I can. I've managed to actually tie up both the Umbral Tide and a unit of Chameleon Skinks here, and I probably should be parking these Bleak Swords. My opponent should probably be finishing them off with the Spear Riders at the moment, as this Bastillodon has managed to be shattered. Still had a fair bit of ammunition left there, so 12 shots there, which is nice, and I can sort of just path through on this guy with the other Charybdis now, knowing that the Cold One Riders are sort of mixed up over here. I see this banishment be placed, and I decided to pull out with these Black Guard. That probably did as much damage to the Legion of Shakwa as any of my units, but now that I've got Marathi and the Master debuffing the slan stats and with their anti-large, I'm confident I can take him out with just those two. So I am going to sort of form a bit of a shield wall, if you like, and try and sort of engage the mobile threats and the shooting from the Lizardmen. Unfortunately, I did allow this Bastillodon to get back in the fight, but we're gonna try and screen out anything coming back. You know, this Scarvet's got a little bit of work left in him. But the Charybdis now are making an absolute beeline, and we saw a Soul Quench go down there that's nearly killed that Bastillodon, and I think that Charybdis will actually die from the Umbral Tide. A Soul Blight has gone down, so again, just debuffing the armor here. The Hellebro now obviously have, you know, the ability to do some damage, but the armor of the Cold One Spear Riders normally would provide a fair bit of protection, but with two basically full health heroes, a pretty healthy Charybdis, and two fairly healthy units of Black Guard here, the elite build from the Dark Elves this time does manage to take the day. So tweaked the build a little bit from the first time. Decided that you know, Charybdis also do debuff leadership, and obviously have obviously are really good monster hunters in their own right. So I figured, you know, with the Lizardmen, a lot of the Lizardmen strength being held up in monsters that have great damage output and often are very cheap sources of terror themselves. They don't have great leadership themselves, and they do rampage. So a one-on-one fight with a Charybdis means, you know, a unit like this may be forced to sort of act out, and if my opponent loses, you know, micro control of them, then we can sort of we can make them charge into Black Guard or face a Charybdis one-on-one like we did. So didn't see a Carnosaur or, you know, Stegodon or anything there, but we managed to force path through. Obviously, Skinks in the front row. You know, there's no mass there, so I could just basically just spam attack orders with the Charybdis to get them through onto the value targets there, and then basically just tried to use the Dark Riders as bait in the back line to try and get the Cold One Spear Riders out of position, because I realized, you know, Legion of Shakwa might be able to do some damage to Charybdis and the like, but Skinks aren't going to do anything. A single Sora Scarvet can probably be dealt with, and then Marathi and the Master managed to gang up actually on that Slan Mage Priest and take them out at the end there. So yeah, there's the double cast. Two sort of variants. This one's obviously a little bit wider, and probably learnt my lesson a little bit from the first game, where I didn't have really any mobile threats outside of the two dragons, and obviously with the shields, being able to mitigate a little bit of the damage from the Chameleon Skinks as we hunt them is pretty important, because these guys actually, because of their poison and they're quite quick themselves, they actually kill. You know, you put them on skirmish mode and they actually kill skirmish cav, you know, fast cav very, very quickly, because they do have a good damage output on their blowpipes. So there you go. Thanks for checking out the videos. Two sort of little spins on the elite sort of Dark Elf build, both sort of centered around being quite narrow, making the use of debuffs, but also employing some high cost units and elite infantry. So I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, take care.